Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to English with Aisha Siddiqui, wherein we'll be doing the second year's topic of BA Special English. And finally, hopefully, and finally, it is the last topic of the theory of poetry. I mean, it was really very vast, wherein if I show you all the introduction, it is the whole introduction is of some 45 pages, wherein today will be the last topic that we are going to do, and not very big topic, but it is the last topic that we are going to do in the theory of poetry, and it is dramatic monologue. What do you mean by dramatic monologue here? So I'll just share my screen wherein we'll discuss about each and every element of dramatic monologue. Now, what do you mean by dramatic monologue? A persona poem. Now, let's see the origins. Technique can be seen in a lot of ancient Greek dramas. Become Became popular as a form of poetry in the Victorian era with the poet Robert Browning, father of the dramatic monologue. So Robert Browning was known as the father of the dramatic monologue. He has introduced dramatic monologue in poetries. What do you mean by monologue? It is a speech delivered by a single person. In a play, when a character utters monologue, expressing his or her private thoughts, this is known as a solil- soliloquy. So, if you see on page number 39, soliloquy is also a topic. Um is also a topic here. Yes. So let's see what it is. Now, prosopopoeia. Now, the word itself is very different. Let's see. A classical rhetorical device in which a writer uses another person or an object to communicate with. So does not actually has to be a person. It can be an object. It can be a horse you're talking to. If you have a pet dog, you can talk to the dog about your emotions. So it can be anything. Monologues were popular in the medieval religion was, and like Canterbury tales, each tale spoken in a different character's voice. Let's see the history. Renaissance and Elizabethan period writers such as Marlowe, then Dryden, and Raleigh all wrote monologues. Restorations and Augustine verse did not much use this form, nor did the romantic poets were more about wrote about monologues, but Robert Browning made dramatic monologue a very, very popular form of writing poetries in the Victorian period. A lyric poetry implies the speaker is the poet or a version of the poet. So it is dramatic poetry is a type of lyrical poetry. Lyrical poetry, we have done the whole topic of lyrical poetry in my previous video. For the ones who have not seen my previous video, please go back and watch that video on lyrical poetry, very short video, and therefore you'll understand what is dramatic monologue. A dramatic lyric has a dramatic situation. For example, let's read out this. Busy old fool, unruly sun, why does you thus through windows and through curtains call on us? So this is a whole poetry by John Donne, and also a poetry from of Sun Rising that we are going to do of John Donne. Now, dramatic monologue was important for the Victorian poets such as Robert Browning and Alfred Tennyson in particular, and especially Browning, who wrote some of the most well known dramatic monologues in English poetry. He is a very well known poet for dramatic monologue. You should remember his name, Robert Browning. After then, the modernists of the 20th century, including T.S. Eliot and Ezra Pound, also used dramatic monologue in their poetries. A decline in this went in the Romantic period onwards. The poets are more inclined to examine individuals' subjective experience rather than to express or refer to an external authority. Robert Langdon in the Poetry of Experience. And by the early 20th century, modernists felt that their culture was fragmented and disintegrated, not so well. Along with the whole idea of truth, it does not go very well. And therefore, modernist dramatic monologue deliberated undermine the naturalist concept of character. So they said that we do not need so much of drama and all the that is not real. So we started making all the natural concepts of dramatic monologues. For example, Love Song by Alfred Prufrock, T.S. Eliot, a distinct character speaking the poem or a voice more closely associated with the poet. Some critics have also called these sorts of poets as mask lyrics. Now let's see some questions to consider. Who is speaking and what is the situation? If there is an unseen interlocutor, what is the relationship between speaker and other characters here? What does the speaker want from the addressee if there is one? Does the speaker change or reveal anything over the course of monologue? What does the reader think about when we hear it as a message? So these were little questions that we need to discuss. Now let's see the features of dramatic monologue. An audience is implied. We know someone is listening, but the speaker never comes right out and says it. There is no dialogue. A monologue is not a conversation. It is written by one person. It's a narration, not a dialogue, not a conversation. The poet is speaking through an assumed voice, usually some sort of fictional identity that is a character. So he's not the one like sonnet speaking, but he is using a character to speak himself. Dramatic monologue stands alone. The poet does not offer any direct analysis or commentary. The audience is left to interpret the character's actions and motivations. Let's see why dramatic monologue is used to give insight into the character's personality, how the character is, and about himself, to indicate to the reader the character's background and history. So all these things were the features of dramatic monologue, very important. Now, if you are referring to this book on page number 38, a dramatic monologue is written. It is a kind of lyric poetry and was made popular by Robert Browning. Then My Last Duchess was very famous, written by Robert Browning. Then in this, the narrator is not talking to himself, but he is actually not the poet himself. He is the one who is just narrating it according to another character. However, dramatic monologue is characterized by a degree of control exercised by the narrator. The speaker in dramatic monologue addresses the reader in such a way so to ultimately reveal his character and temperament, to reveal how the character of the hero or the one who's talking is angry, sad, emotional, and all of these things. I hope you all understood what is dramatic monologue. We've almost covered everything from the theory of poetry. This was the last topic to cover. We will be starting with the poetry's part from the next video, and our first poetry is going to be very interesting, and let's wait for it. And then we will start with poetry's question answers, and we have to rush as there will be exams very soon. I hope you all are getting prepared for the examinations as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.